Well, I wouldn't make much of it because Putin said what he was supposed to say. He said exactly the same about Alexander Litvinenko. He said about the same about Berezovsky and the Skripals and everybody else. What else do you expect from a former junior KGB officer when he is talking about somebody whom he hated and whose death he obviously wanted? Well, usual words.
You say this is somebody who he hates. How long do you think he's hated him?
I believe that's been going on for quite some time. Actually, when Prigozhin started to be a public figure, has started to give interviews every day, accusing the Russian Minister of Defense and the head of the General Staff, Gerasimov. And then, just before his famous revolt, what it is called, a march on Moscow, he started accusing Putin directly and putting blame on him, on his command, because Putin is the commander-in-chief of the Russian army, putting blame on him for casualties, even for starting this war, explaining that Ukraine was not going to attack Russia and the NATO bloc was not preparing to do any problems for Russia. And he was insulting Putin even in several interviews just before the march. So I guess starting from that time, Putin was feeling very bad about Prigozhin. Besides, Putin was lying, obviously, when he said that this is a private group and has nothing to do with the Kremlin, and what they are doing is their own business. In fact, later, after the march, he started explaining that Russia invested 80 billion rubles, which is a lot of money, into Prigozhin's company, Prigozhin's Wagner Group, and it was fully financed by the state, and that he is a traitor, and all that sort of things. So I believe Putin was feeling nothing but hatred towards Prigozhin, and he definitely disliked him.
And that's why you told my colleague Carol Walker a couple of months ago, after the mutiny, that Prigozhin would not last long. How surprised are you that he was out there in Mali, he was in St. Petersburg at the Russia-Africa conference, he was in Belarus, he was popping up all over the place, seemingly pretty confident that he would not be touched?
He believed probably that he would not be touched, and he also probably stupidly believed in Putin's words when it was officially announced that he is forgiven, that actually nothing happened and it's all right and no one will touch him. He was given his money back and his treasures back and probably even his passport back. And Peskov announced that there was a conference, of which I do not believe at all. A conference in the Kremlin with 35 Wagner commanders, including Prigozhin, and Putin met them in the Kremlin. I had a very honest talk with them for about 3 hours, but I absolutely do not believe in anything of that. When Putin announced that he has no problem with Prigozhin anymore and he would neglect what happened, and we are talking about a march on Moscow, about shooting 7 Russian planes, about killing several people, and about the whole city of Rostov greeting Prigozhin and saying, hello, hi, do what you want to do, and we are praising you, and we are praying for you, and all that sort of things. And we all saw that on the television. Putin was running out of Moscow. Medvedev was running out of Moscow. And all of them, Shoigu, Gerasimov, they were running out, and everybody tried to escape from Moscow. And that was such a huge humiliation for all of them that I expected that no more than 3 months would pass and Prigozhin would be dead. Actually, that shows the typical Putin schedule, because he died, or we believe that he died, on 23rd, which is exactly 2 months after the events in Rostov.
And you say we believe. There's still an element of doubt in your mind then that this really is Prigozhin and Dmitry Ukhin, his co-founder, his Wagner co-founder. Is there a part of you that will not believe this until you see the bodies or you see incontrovertible evidence?
Absolutely. See, until we got any evidence. Today, it's only a supposition bordering on assurance that it was there. Besides Utkin and Prigozhin, there was also head of the security for Wagner, the third most trusted person. And as far as I know, the whole leadership of Wagner were there on the plane. So we believe it was the real crash, and probably Prigozhin was killed there. But until we get evident information from independent sources, we won't have it from independent sources, but at least from those whom we want to believe, we will not say whether he's dead or not.
It beggars belief.
A lot of things could have happened.
Yeah, it beggars belief, doesn't it, that the high command of a private army like this that has come into conflict with their major sponsor would all travel together in the same plane.
This is very difficult to believe, actually. Therefore, I'm considering different versions. For example, that they were captured before, because as far as I know, for quite a long time, Prigozhin was not heard of. There were no contact with him, and a few people from Moscow reported they could not contact him, and he was out of reach, and all that other things. The recent video from Africa that we were shown on the television is obviously a fake, and that was confirmed it's a fake, because with 50 degrees, fully dressed, good-looking Prigozhin would not be giving such interviews. It was completely impossible. So it was a fake. And if we believe those people who are saying that did not see Prigozhin for a long time, 4 or 5 weeks, he was not heard of. So they could have been captured, could have been interrogated, whatever could happen to them. They could have been killed even, and then put on the plane, and a crash could have been organized. That's easy.
It's interesting that some airline trackers claim that Prigozhin's private jet was seen leaving Mali and going towards Russia in the last 2 or 3 days, which is one of the reasons why they feel that talk of him in the West African country was credible.
Well, I mean, a plane could have been leaving, but whether Prigozhin was inside or not, we do not know.
Mm-hmm. And what of the ramifications of this for Wagner, its succession, and also for the GRU, your former intelligence unit in Russia? How do you think they'll be responding to the news that this folk hero, this anti-hero, this warlord, who did manage to capture Bakhmut in May, doing better than nearly all other Russian units, is now dead?
Well, concerning the GRU, I do not think there will be any reaction, or at least they will be indifferent, because I don't think anybody in the GRU liked Prigozhin and what he was doing. Concerning Wagner, they immediately after the march, they started to disband this group, and they were going on quite successfully in disbanding the group. One small part was put in Belarus, another part was signed the contract with the Ministry of Defense, and they were put in different Russian units. And actually, honestly, to say, well, the company stopped to exist, and there were only rumors that they're still mobilizing people, they're recruiting people, and they are active, and they're preparing for Africa for different activities. In fact, it was on the verge of being completely disbanded, and I think Wagner will be forgotten very soon.
Wow. I wonder what the reaction will be in some of the countries where they've been making all this money, carrying out war crimes and providing security for presidents in at least 3 countries.
This is correct, but there are plenty of other Russian private military companies who can provide the security, and obviously those people in those African countries who need this kind of protection and security, they would ask Putin to arrange, or Shoigu to arrange something, and they would get what they want, because they are paying money.
Right. And what about this Russian military blogger who you'll be aware of, Roman Saponokov, who says, and I'm going to quote him directly, Prigozhin's murder will have catastrophic consequences. The people who gave this order do not understand the mood in the army. How seriously would you take that?
I wouldn't take it seriously at all, because I think the person who is saying that is either very much pro-Prigozhin, or he is not really understands what the situation is in Russia. No, nothing is going to happen. The army will not react. The army did not react when Prigozhin started his march. The army did not react. They started disbanding Wagner. Wagner was not respected because there were mercenaries who were earning plenty of money. And, well, they were fighting probably rather well, but they were half criminals. Most of them were criminals, mercenaries, working for themselves, not for anything, not for Russia, unlike other soldiers who were dying for nothing, for Putin and for a small group of his oligarchs. So probably by the majority of the army personnel, they were quite hated people.
And when you consider Putin's position tonight, his demeanor when he was giving those condolences and talking about Prigozhin, communicating with the BRICS summit, how do you assess him? How much stronger or weaker is he tonight?
Every time he is involved in killing somebody, like I repeat, with the Litvinenko case or the Skripal's case or the Berezovsky case on others, he is getting weaker, because any person, any dictator who is giving orders to kill somebody is becomes less and less powerful, because this is the less effective means of dealing with people. Because a person who is in power would find a proper and correct way to deal with his opponents, not just giving orders for his special brigades to kill somebody. This is obviously not the showing power of somebody, showing weakness of a dictator.